So good morning. I am Natalie Furlett. I am the Director for Partnerships and Member Engagement with Campus Compacts. I hope we are all doing well on this gorgeous Monday. So we are excited to have Josh Young here. He is the College Director for Miami Dade College. Now I'm forgetting your actual title. Institute for Civic Engagement and Democracy. Yep. So they have been using this very innovative civic scorecard. So he's going to take some time to talk us through what that looks like and how they're using it on their campus, and then give us some time to talk about it, about how it might work on your campus as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Josh so he can tell us a little more.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, I'm really excited to share this with you. We're so excited about it here at Miami Dade College, and it has so much potential, and we are expecting thousands of students within the next 12 to 18 months to be using this scorecard. We're already in 400, 500, 600 students using it right now, but it's also very easy to use and to replicate. So I'm thank you, Natalie, for giving me the chance to share this. So a little bit about Miami-Dade College. We're a huge community college in Miami-Dade County. We have 8 campuses, over 100,000 students. We enroll the most Hispanic students of any higher ed institution. I think the 3rd most Black students. Our students come from 167 countries, speak 63 languages. It's a really cool place to live and work. Like most community colleges, most of our students are the first in the family to go to college. 60% are low income. And one thing I'm really proud of, we've always called ourselves Democracy's College over the year. And like, I love that. And that's one of the reasons I've stayed here so long. So the framework for our work college-wide across 8 campuses is changemaker education. And we actually, my boss who I report to is the Director of Changemaker Education and Social Innovation. And our goal is to create in everyone a changemaker world. Like, how can we help each student think of themselves as a changemaker and move along the continuum of building changemaker skills and mindsets, behaviors. So this is a short video about changemaking at MDC that features some of our students, faculty, and staff, and our provost. It also talks about the scorecard, because the scorecard is one of our primary mechanisms to promote change-making education and civic engagement. So hopefully you guys can hear this.
Are in a world where things are changing. We are in a world where things are changing either without our conscious direction or with it.
Most students care, they just don't know where to start. And that's why it's important that at the classroom level, we start encouraging change-making.
We want to think about change-making as a type of lens, a way of looking at the world where we see the possibilities for a better future.
I think it starts with belief. So what I'm really preparing students for is for them to believe in themselves and in their ability to make a difference.
And once you have that knowledge, it's powerful. This veil comes out of your eyes and you just know you can do great things.
I thought being a change maker, you have to be the next Einstein, but I got introduced to the Civic Action Scorecard. And I was like, wow, this is easier than I thought. That's when my mindset switched and dang, I am a change maker, and we all can be a change maker.
Change maker is making a change anywhere, no matter the impact. It can be big or small, but doing something to make the community better.
That's a change maker. Curiosity plus action.
Having students understand that they take responsibility and an active role in their own learning is one of the ways that our faculty continues to lead the efforts in change-making and social innovation at Miami Dade College.
Learning isn't something that only goes on in the classroom. We are connected to the world around us in ways. We're shaped by it and we can shape it. I want to share that possibility with students.
I give them an opportunity to question themselves, to critically think. I find that the students are more resilient, they're more patient, and they have an ability to see certain situations from a different perspective.
I try to reach my students from the sense that any change in a system affects the whole system. There is always an impact.
I posed a thought-provoking question for the students, which was, what kind of world do you want to live in, and what can you do to help us get there?
It's better to look back, say when you're 90, that I fought for this life rather than I settled for this life.
That's where it all becomes magical.
I think it makes the class more meaningful to them, and it made it more meaningful for me. That was one of the best final exams I ever observed. I'd never seen students get so into it.
Everybody cares about something.
Really teaches students to ask the why.
Students like me, they want to see how what they're learning in the classroom applies to their everyday lives, and that's what change making is taking something like a concept that you learn in biology and applying it to what you're seeing in the world, and what does that mean for you?
And that's where I see that change in the student. They become focused, they become dedicated, and they find purpose in what they're doing.
It's also about the confidence, because the overall message was that we all were leaders from the start. The only part that we were missing was to realize that we're leaders ourselves.
Our students are the beneficiaries, but they're also the propellers of this work.
I feel like it gave me a different perspective on life in every possible way. I was a change maker, you know, spreading the word to vote. I was not even able to vote because I was still 17 last year. But once you actually watch the voting polls, you can see that even 1 or 2 votes, they matter. So it's like, if you have the ability to vote, I'd say you have to vote.
People our age are so passionate. They just may not know that there's opportunities for them to help.
Joining clubs and seeing that I can make a change, that I could bring light to situations, I feel like that just made me a better person.
I started learning more about change making, and so that inspired me and empowered me to impact others and create events and actually take action.
One small action can amalgamate into something much bigger if you involve those around you.
If teachers were to talk about change making in their classroom, it would plant a seed in the students. Creating more well-rounded global citizens, I think, is important for everyone in the world, right? So even if I have a class of 9 students, I can impact those 9, and then they can go out and multiply that number.
Let students dream. Let students give of themselves. Let students lift each other up, so our societies can continue to flourish, not just for one, but for all.
That's a great video, isn't it? I'm really proud of that. So why is the Civic Action Scorecard needed? I don't know if many of you are familiar with this whole civic empowerment gap, but it's a clear data-backed challenge that I know our community college students face. Just like nationally recognized math and achievement gaps. And we know that low-income students of color have fewer and lower quality opportunities for civic learning and engagement. So when you think of the purpose of all of our work, you know, it's about student success, but it's also about addressing the civic empowerment gap that our students face. And the other main framework that we use in our work is the CLDE. And then the question becomes, like, what types of educational experiences beyond hours of service can help students become more civically engaged? We have a pretty strong academic service learning program, but the civic learning component was always the weakest link. Faculty did a good job with the service and with tying it to course competencies. So we were really thinking about what can we do to incentivize and recognize and promote civic learning beyond just hours of service. So I want to pose this question to the folks that are here. Like, both of these questions, what knowledge, skills, and mindsets related to civic learning and democratic engagement do you want your students to develop? And also, what are some examples of things that you're doing at your school to promote civic learning and democratic engagement beyond volunteering, beyond hours of service? So Natalie, let me see if I can, so the 2 questions, what knowledge, skills, and mindsets, and what programs and initiatives do you have? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And if anyone wants to unmute and speak up or just drop something in the chat, we won't spend much time on this, but these are the questions we were asking. What knowledge, skills, and mindsets, and what programming can we develop? Because we used to only have the academic service learning program years ago. Anybody want to drop something in the chat or oh, thank you, Tiffany. Said, what a powerful, inspiring video. Yes, yes. Do any of you have guest speakers that come on campus and talk about civic engagement topics, or yeah, some of the voter registration activity, focusing on local elections?
I can just share so I've only been with Give Pulse for about 8 months. Prior to that, I spent 8 years in higher ed at Washington State University on our flagship campus in Pullman. And I'd say that one of the things that we really strived for was really around kind of helping students realize kind of their self-efficacy, that they can actually have the power to make change and kind of realize their own capacity for that change. And I would say kind of one of the things that we did on our campus was around holding space for public discourse and public dialogue around hot topics or issues that were coming up either in the news, or things that were just kind of timely in our area and region, and then bringing community experts from off campus, on campus, and holding space for our students to have conversations around issues.
Yeah, that's a great example, Tiffany. Thank you. Whoops, let me go here. So let me jump now into the Civic Action Scorecard and what it is. So basically, we started about 5 years ago, and it continues to evolve. And right now, it has about 80 civic actions across 5 categories. And the reason we say it's equitable, accessible, and diverse is because for equity, it can be done by anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen or what your citizenship status is. Obviously, in South Florida, we have a lot of students that are not U.S. citizens. It could be a student who's civically experienced, or maybe someone that has no experience with civic engagement. You know, as far as accessibility, the Civic Action Scorecard can be done virtually, in person, at home, on campus, in the community, all types of ways to complete the actions. And then diversity, there's 5 broad categories. It's created and contributed to by multiple stakeholders. And basically, the way it's set up is there's civic action, there's documentation, there's reflection. And by completing those, you score points, and those points accumulate, and then they result in an award. And again, this is all pretty easy for other schools to adapt. In fact, there's a number of schools around the country that are adapting the scorecard right now. I don't want to spend too much time on this slide because we're going to come back to it later. But the main ways that the scorecard can be implemented, I can give you specific examples from MDC. Number one, faculty can incorporate it into their class. They can go through the scorecard and pick certain actions. Or if there's an action that doesn't exist, they could even create their own. And then secondly, it's a great fit for programs, for cohorts. If you have an honors college or a leadership program, or your student government or student organizations, they all could participate in the scorecard. As a community college, the best way for us is to get faculty to pick certain items and make that part of their class, because of our students working and being so busy and not being around on campus once class is over. So I mentioned there's 5 categories, and in a minute, I'm going to show you examples of civic actions from each of these categories. And then we're going to break into a couple of small groups, and you can go through all the actions and see which ones you have completed in the last 12 months and see how many points you would score. And also what other actions you think we should add, or you might want to add for your school. But the democratic engagement, I think, has 27 actions. it started with fewer, but we continue to add more and more. And you can see the focus for each of these areas. One of the areas that we're doing more with now is this idea of social innovation. We became an Ashoka Changemaker campus, and we want to introduce students to the idea of social innovation, social enterprise. So again, like I mentioned a minute ago, there's 3 steps for each action. You have to do the action, you have to document it, and you have to answer some reflection prompts. And you score points, and each action is worth a certain number of points depending on how much time and effort it takes to do that action. So as I mentioned, we have about 80 actions right now. So if you were going to create a Civic Action Scorecard, what actions would you want in your scorecard? So for example, Miami Dade College has food pantries on all of our campuses, and we always struggle getting donations. So we built an action into the scorecard where students donate to the on-campus food pantry, and they can score points. So maybe you have initiatives on your campus, and which ones would be a priority for you. And one thing is, every summer we revisit these actions, and we have fun with it, and we come up with new ones. We tweak ones, we tweak some of them, we get rid of them, we change, we improve the reflection prompts. So I'll show you some examples from each category, and then we're going to break into small groups, and you'll see that you'll be working with a list of all 80 actions. And I'm really curious, how many points would you have scored in the last 12 months? So democratic engagement, and by the way, all of this is on our website, and I'm going to share that with you later, including a Word version of this, so you could download it. And we have a Creative Commons license, so you're welcome to take this, adapt it, change it, use it however you can. So the way it's set up, you can see the action, the documentation requirement, and then the reflection prompt. And this one's pretty easy to do, so it's just 5 points. And when students get to 100 points, they earn the Bronze Civic Action Award. And I'll show you more about that later, but they get a lapel pin, a certificate, a letter of commendation. And then we always have a resource. So we have a vote page at MDC where they can go there and register to vote. A lot of our students are not US citizens. By the way, I mentioned that this can be done by US citizens or not. So this is, I think, the only action on the whole 80 item scorecard that you can't do if you're not a US citizen. However, you can help someone register to vote regardless of your citizenship status. So we have this, and some of the actions can be done multiple times. So this one, you can see it's 5 points. You can do it up to 2 times and earn a total of 10 points. How many of us know who our elected officials are? How many of us could name all? I know in Miami-Dade County, or where I live, I have something like 14 elected officials. I can't even name all of them, I don't think. So we ask students to research that and then upload the list and answer the reflection prompt that's given there, and that's worth 5 points. Another thing that we think is very important, obviously, for all of us to have done and know how to do, is to contact an elected official. So this is democratic engagement number 8. And they can do this up to 2 times. They have to upload the documentation. They have to answer this reflection prompt. And then we have a resource. This is democratic engagement number 26. I often have students come to my office and they say, can you tell me what the difference is between Republicans and Democrats? Like really, really basic, hard to answer questions, but also basic information that we found most of our community college students aren't aware of. So this is an example of a new civic action we added last summer, because we just wanted to make sure students start doing some basic research, start informing themselves about the differences between various political parties. So you can imagine we go back and forth on our team, and we try to figure out what would be a good action. And then we work on the reflection prompts, and we find resources. So this one's worth 10 points because it takes a bit more work. Now we get into the second category, environment and sustainability, and I'll just show you a couple of them. So know the native plants, and you can see the documentation. So that's required, and the reflection on a bunch of resource websites, and it's worth 5 points. Another framework for all of our work are the UN SDGs. So we ask students to watch the great video, We the People, and just research some of the UN SDGs and answer this prompt, 5 points. Probably all of us have events and trainings and workshops on campus, and it's often hard to get students to attend. So every time we have an event that has a civic focus, we make sure that students know this event is worth X number of points and counts for a certain item on the scorecard. So it's another way to incentivize attendance at workshops, trainings. All right, now we get into community well-being. Number 1 is complete a significant act of kindness. It can be documented in photo recording. And you can see there, they can do this one up to 3 times. So they could do 3 random acts of kindness and get a total of 15 points. They have to have a minimum 100-word reflection for each act of kindness that they do. They have to, or another one, community well-being for fundraise over $50 for a nonprofit. And we have some guidelines. They must engage multiple donors, at least 5. They can't be raised exclusively from a single donor or exclusively from your family, friends, or a club. And there are a lot of really, really awesome fellowships and leadership programs, both on campus and also from our community partners. And this one's worth 25 points because these programs generally are a big time commitment, 15 hours or more. So whenever we have a program like that, we'll let students know that they can do this for number 15 on the scorecard. Okay, empathy is one of the core attributes that we're trying to promote, because to be a change maker, obviously you need to be empathetic, you need to be compassionate. So we made this one 15 points, and we have a great article about empathy, and then we have 2 videos, and then we have a very in-depth reflection prompt that asks some hard questions, like describe a time when you've been empathetic in your life, or a time when you could have shown more empathy. Why is empathy an important attribute for being a change maker? So think about all the programs and your goals at your institution, and what are scorecard actions that you might want to develop. Or maybe you would want to take some of these and tweak them. Arts and culture. We have a lot of professors that will pick a particular documentary that they want students to watch that's related to their course competencies, and then, because it's wide open, it could be any type of documentary about political, environmental, or social issue, and 10 points. Attend or participate in a local arts or cultural fair or festival. And then the last category is social innovation. Most of our students don't know what that is. They've never heard of that. So we asked them to watch a couple of videos and read a short article. And then the Ashoka Fellows program, I think there's 3,000 or 4,000 people around the world who are social innovators, who are coming up with new solutions to kind of unsolvable civic challenges. So we want them, whether it's homelessness or gun violence or all kinds of things. So this opportunity for students to be inspired to see what people are doing around the world as Ashoka Changemakers fellows. Now we also have a propose your own category, but honestly, this is not used very much because our scorecard is so broad that most of the time when a student or professor comes to us with a proposed action, we find an existing action that it fits under, but if not, then we work with the professor and or the student to come up with an action that fits under this category. So I mentioned earlier, like we just created this award, right? So bronze is 100 points, silver is 200, gold's 300, and there's no time frame. Even alumni can earn it. We have faculty and staff can work on the award. I even have one of our administrators' son who's in 8th grade. He just earned the award for bronze, and we give them a letter of commendation, a certificate, and a lapel pin. And the county mayor told me she would do a letter of commendation. Also, our college president, Madeline Pumariga. I just haven't done those two things yet, but I recommend that. Like, get a letter from your college president as part of this award. Okay, so Natalie, now what I'd like to do is on our website, we have a tracking sheet that shows all 80 actions. And what we encourage students to do is print that tracking sheet and look through the 80 actions and then figure out which ones they want to do. So Natalie, I'm going to click on it now. What I would like to do is show people the tracking sheet, but also if everyone, maybe you could drop in the chat, the tracking sheet, Natalie, right now.
I did. Yeah, I sent the PDF in the chat.
Yeah, if everyone could open that up, and then I'm going to open up as well. So this is our website for the Civic Action Scorecard. The Word version is right here, the PDF.
No, we're actually still seeing your presentation right now.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. Earlier, let me switch back.
Yeah, earlier it went automatically. I don't know what the difference was.
I just flipped over to our website.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, so mdc.edu/ISED, go to students, and then under democratic engagement, we have 3 different pathways or programs: civic engagement, civic action score, voter engagement, and then we're also part of the Unified America Challenge. So if I click here, it drops me down. So right here is a Word version of the scorecard, which you could download and use. We have the PDF version, and then the planning sheet, Natalie, is what I need everyone to open that up right now, if you don't mind. So I'm gonna open mine up. Natalie, do you see does it show this planning sheet or no?
Yeah, now we're seeing the planning sheet.
You can see it. All right. So what I'd like to do, and we'll take how are we doing on time? 7-10 minutes, something like that. Everyone can open this up, and then in your small group, go through all 80 actions and identify which ones of these have you done in the last 12 months, and how many points would you score, which award would you qualify for. And also, if you have time, just talk about your thoughts about scorecard, or there's some actions that you would add for your institution. So everyone should be able to open this up and use it in your small group breakout. Whoops, so I stopped sharing. Well, yeah, Natalie, what size group?
I will open these rooms now.
And then Natalie, you'll bring us back together in a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, not a problem. Shaquana, doesn't let me send you into a room because you're the host, but if you would like to participate in the conversation, you can.
Great. So the one main thing I have left to do is I want to talk about how we track this and how we help students know how many points they've earned and get them approved and things like that. But and I'm going to end up with time for Q&A and also just to hear from you about how you might use the scorecard at your institution. But let's just open up just for a couple minutes right now, real quickly. How many points does anybody want to share? How many points they think they would have gotten in the last 12 months, or anything that you talked about in your small group? Did anyone earn the award, a bronze award? or anything that you mentioned in your small group?
I guess Melanie and I were chatting more about how we can, what areas are easily able to move onto our campus and what areas will we need to figure out partnerships and places where we need to brainstorm a little bit. And I think we both kind of shared that the democratic engagement section, I can definitely take a lot of this, just like copy paste, tweak obviously the resources and specific parts, but the area that I feel like I'm going to need a lot of support from campus partners and community partners is the social innovation and the environmental and sustainability part, especially the environmental part. We have a great student club that does a lot of this work. So just leaning onto the events that they already have planned, the programs that they're part of campus climate action, like all of these different groups that they already work with and tapping into their resources. But the social innovation part is going to take a lot of brainstorming on my end and a lot of figuring out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, maybe your first version of the scorecard doesn't even have that category, you know?
Yeah.
And then the student club, that I could see them helping come up with civic actions and helping build out a handful of actions under that category.
Yeah, I also shared that I really appreciate the arts and culture because I have a lot of global students from all over the world, immigrants, international students, a bunch of different, all over the country or all over the world. And a lot of them, they've expressed they've never attended like an arts festival. They've never attended a community event, Pride or anything. So I'm really happy, excited about this section.
Cool. I'm going to share my screen and just power through the last few slides I have, and then we'll just open it up. So I showed you all a minute ago our website, and we have the 3 pathways: service, civic leadership, and democratic engagement. And the scorecard is right there. And Natalie, maybe if you could drop our website in the chat, it's just www.mdc.edu/ICED. So if you go there and just go to students and then democratic engagement, you can find all of these resources. And you notice here, I talk about the Changemaker Hub. So one of the challenges that we had until just a year ago was we're a big school, 100,000 students, 8 campuses. And when students, like, how do students keep track of their actions? How do we keep track of them? How do we generate reports? And basically the way it would work prior to us moving to GivePulse, which I'll talk about in a minute, is students would have a paper cover sheet, basically what you were reviewing, and they would keep track of all their actions and total it up. And then they would make a portfolio. It could be a PowerPoint, it could be a Word document. And they would submit that to their professor or to our office for review and approval. And that worked fine, but it was just a bit tedious and it wasn't using technology at all. So now we have this new system, which is amazing, where it's all done electronically. And I'll show you that in a minute. So actually that leads right into GivePulse. So for years, we had our own IT internally developed database where we kept track of service learning and our partners, but we took about a year and we did tons of research. And Tiffany, in the end, we felt like GivePulse was the clear best choice for us. I know they work with more than 200 colleges. Tiffany, can you just say briefly what GivePulse is? Thank you for being here, Tiffany. We love GivePulse. We love GivePulse.
Well, I was just excited to learn even more about what you're all doing with the Civic Action Scorecard, Josh. So GivePulse is a community engagement platform that was initially created to support nonprofit community-based organizations, and then pivoted really quickly to then support higher ed institutions and kind of bridging the campus and community through a wide range of activities and supporting campuses and really being able to tell their story of the impact that their students, faculty, and staff are having in their communities and regions.
So when we first met with Give Pulse, we told them one of the most important programs we have is the Civic Action Scorecard, and we really need a way to implement the scorecard using technology. So Tiffany and her team at Give Pulse have customized Give Pulse, their platform, to work for the scorecard. I'll just show you quickly what it looks like. So we call Give Pulse and MDC the Changemaker Hub, and this is the home page, the landing page for our program. And because the scorecard is so important to us, students can just click right here where it says click here for the Civic Action Scorecard. If you click there, it will take you to a list of all the 5 areas. Remember I showed you those earlier. And so if I click on democratic engagement, it takes me to a list of all 27 actions. And by the way, again, we encourage students to print that 1-page or the 2-page summary that you all were looking at and make a plan and pick which ones. Are also professors assign certain items. But the cool thing about this is it's all done through the tech platform, Give Pulse. So let's say I want to do number 1, DE1. I click on DE1 and it takes me right here. It's 5 points. It has the resource. It's the same thing I was showing you earlier from our booklet format. It has the requirements, it has the documentation, the minimum reflection. So a student does these things, and when they're ready, they just click right here, add impact. And they get a screen like this, and it asks, was this for a course? Because a lot of students are having to do it for course credit. And so if it is, you click yes, and then it shows your current class schedule. You just click on the course that you're taking that semester, you're doing the scorecard for. And then up here on the top right, it says reflection. This is the same reflection prompt that you saw earlier, and they have to type their reflection in here. They have to upload, where it says add attachment, they just upload a picture of their voter registration card, and then you just click add impact. So this keeps a running record of every action that a student does, and then either the professor or someone on my team or one of our student workers, we go in and we review the reflection and make sure everything's good, and then we approve it. So this system works really, really well. I know Mesa Community College is on this meeting, and I think they use Canvas for their version of the scorecard, and we can talk about that in a minute if you guys want to hear how they do that, if you don't have a platform like Give Pulse. So again, how can it be used? As I mentioned earlier, working with professors and showing them the scorecard, introducing it to them, and having them pick certain items or assigning a certain number of points. And we have a lot of cohorts and programs like Honors College, Presidential Scholars, student leadership programs, or maybe you have a program where students receive a scholarship. So it's pretty easy to make this a requirement for different cohorts and programs, in addition to helping faculty integrate it into their classes. So we have about 600 or 700 Honors College students. And my goal within the next couple of years is that this will be a requirement of the Honors College that they earn at least the bronze level of the Civic Action Award. They do so much in that program that it will be easy for them to earn the award. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's just talk for the last couple of minutes. Any questions you have, or any ideas you have, or how you might adapt this and use it at your school. Just a reminder that everything that I shared here can be found on our website. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, we did the Creative Commons license, so you're free to take this, use it, adapt it, build upon it. So we have like 8-9 minutes left. We can end early, but let's any thoughts, comments, questions. How might you use this? Is it something you think you might use?
Josh, you had mentioned earlier that, like, once a year you guys go through and review everything. Who is that you're working with to review this and to look over sort of who makes those decisions on your campus?
Well, we're blessed because most community colleges don't have a civic engagement office like we do, and which is a shame because I think more than 40% of students in higher ed attend community colleges. So we need offices like ours. We need more offices like this on community colleges. But we gather our team, and we have full or part-timers on all 8 campuses. And as a team, we work on it. And then my boss is the director of change making education, MDT, so we run it by her. That's pretty much our group. But faculty, students, people give us ideas throughout the year, and we keep track of those. In the summer, we just get together and make decisions. I know Slippery Rock University, they have a civic engagement office, so they convened a team of faculty, students, and staff, and for the last 4 or 5 months, I think, have been building out what their scorecard might look like from scratch. What are the categories they want? What actions do they want for Slippery Rock University students? They also use Give Pulse, so they'll be able to implement it using the tech platform. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you share kind of what your timeline was like? Because I'm thinking at our institution, it kind of takes us doing something 2-3 times, spending 2-3 years of doing something to prove to our honors advisory or our faculty or our different leads of different areas that this is something they should contribute to. Like, did it take a while to kind of get their buy-in and their participation? Or was it something like right from the start, their partnership was there to create it?
People love the scorecard. They love it. Faculty love it. Program directors love it. We're not really getting any resistance, especially coming out of COVID. You know, it got hard to actually go out in the community. I know we're beyond that now, but this is so easy to implement, and it makes so much sense. And then there's so much flexibility to build out your own actions that you feel are important for your institution. Every time I presented it at NBC, people, they're all in. Like, virtual college is saying, oh, how can we do this in virtual college? The thing is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can, obviously, this is just a work in progress. It needs to be improved. However, I think the overall structure makes sense, you know, and like, you want to recognize students who earn the award, and if it's 100 points, how will you recognize them? So maybe, you know, you could get some of those things in place. Most likely your college president or dean or someone would agree to do, oh, once they hear about it, they'll say, oh, I'd love to do it later. This is what we're about as a higher ed institution. We want students to be more involved, and I want them to know who their elected officials are. I want them to have experience contacting their elected official. I want them to register to vote. So you could build out the infrastructure pretty quickly and then sell it. I don't think it would be that hard to get folks to buy into it. The one challenge is, how do students, like I mentioned earlier, keep track of things? And the most basic model is you have a cover sheet, and they put that on top of a portfolio, a printed or virtual portfolio. But Mesa is using Canvas, we're using Give Pulse. And there are other portfolio programs and ways to track it. But Tiffany, like in Give Pulse, we can pull all kinds of reports now. We can see how many students completed which action. We can break it out by campus, by cohort, and really generate, and we can see all the reflections. But I don't think it's that hard of a sell. I really don't.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What are some incentives or rewards that you've given in the past?
So on each campus, we have an end of year student recognition event, and we always recognize students who are in the President's Volunteer Service Award, which is a federal award, but also the Civic Action Award. And we invite them, they get recognized publicly at that event. They come up front, they get their certificate. We have really nice lapel pins made. I think they cost like $1.25 each, one for bronze, one for silver, one for gold. I think you were mentioning at Mesa, you guys have you said something about a cash award or scholarship. Say more about that. Yeah.
Yes, we actually had a scholarship that if you received 100 hours in volunteer work, you would receive $500 in scholarship money.
Yeah. I mean, I could see if you have a program, a scholarship program where students have to do X, Y, and Z to earn the scholarship, you could earn the Civic Action Award as part of that, the requirements for that program. And you have a Canvas site set up in your civic engagement office at Mesa, right? And that's how students, they go to that Canvas site and they do the actions, and it's all kept track of there, correct?
Yes.
Tiffany, I think Give Pulse is going to build it out so that when students get to 100 points and we verify that they successfully completed that, the system will generate a certificate for them and a letter, and they get an email. There's a lot of cool things about building it in to a tech platform that make it easier. Any other questions or suggestions or comments? Tiffany, I know Slippery Rock is adapting the scorecard. Mesa, Portland Community College, I know Hannah said she was interested. I think there are a number of schools that, as it becomes more widely known, are there others, Tiffany, that you know or?
I don't know that offhand. I know Brian's been the one that has primarily been working with you all and our development team on the scorecard. But I do know that in conversations that I have had with campuses, when that comes up, it always ends up generating a lot of interest in wanting to kind of really explore that further, because it's a really great way to bring something that is in somewhat abstract, I think, for a lot of folks, as far as like this democratic engagement, what does this mean, into something that is very real, that you can take in like bite-sized chunks, right? To move yourself along that continuum, to become really more fully engaged.
I know the customization you guys made was in now points, because your system in the past didn't include a way to earn points, right? So you've added that. This is really cool.
Yes, and I know our team has loved partnering with you all in kind of enhancing a lot of the features that we've already had, as well as kind of adding new features in order to really be able to support you all in that scorecard.
Sophia, Melanie, anybody have any final comments or questions?
Thank you for sharing. This is all things I've had in my mind, and so just to see it laid out is just amazing. So I really appreciate you sharing all these resources with us.
And I can share out the slides too, if you don't mind, Josh. I can send those out to folks who registered.
Yeah, and I just put my email in the chat as well. And I'll send you the slides.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Josh. This was really great. And we will have this recording up on our website as well. We have one more in our community college series, which is going to be on June 7th. And we're going to be talking about using deliberative dialogue in the community college setting with Nick Longo and Lena Jones. So thank you all so much. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you all. Goodbye, everybody.